Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about the Vintage Metagame on Magic Online with data taken from top 32s in challenges, 4-0 and 3-1s in prelims, and 5-0s in leagues. So as we examine this, understand this is technically a winner's metagame, it's not a true metagame, but because this is a winner's metagame, these are the decks people are going to be copying, and this is a really good representation of what you're going to be playing against on Magic Online. Let's look at Vintage. The most popular deck in Vintage is Blue Tinker, followed by Mono White Initiative. So let's talk about these decks. The Blue Tinker deck is one of those decks that plays nearly all of the power, plays all of the Moxen, gets all these free artifacts and all this free mana onto the battlefield very, very quickly. Tutors out instants and sorceries they need, normally Tinker. And then they cast Tinker either into Sphinx of the Steelwind against certain decks, but normally into Bolas' Citadel. And because they have so many cards that cost so little, and they have access to a ridiculous amount of mana with their artifacts, they're able to cast a ton of cards off the top of their deck and eventually kill with Bolas' Citadel. Or sometimes with other cards, like Monastery Mentor, if it's a white version of the Blue Tinker deck. But generally, they're trying to kill with Bolas' Citadel, or trying to take infinite turns with Manifold Key and Time Vault. The second most popular deck is Mono White Initiative. Mono White Initiative is sort of a port from when the deck was very, very good in Legacy. It plays Moxes just to be able to have the mana very, very quickly. And they cast something that can just win the game on turn one, effectively Force of Will checks their opponent. With Cavern of Souls, it's not really a Force of Will check though. And then takes the initiative turn one, and then uses that initiative to quickly close the door on their opponent. They exclusively play Mana Rocks, Thalia, which is disgusting in Vintage, and cards that kill their opponent. It's essentially a stompy deck. Now, if we shift our gaze to the top 8 metagames, so these are decks that have top 8'd the challenges this past week. So it's a little bit more of an exclusive club. We see a pretty wide spread of decks. We have a Blue Tinker deck, Sultai Midrange, Prison Shops, Squee Hollowvine, and Blue-Black Control. So we already talked about Blue Tinker, so let's talk about Sultai Midrange. Sultai Midrange is exactly what it sounds like. Generally, it plays Lurrus the Dream Den to be able to recast a bunch of permanents that they care about. They play Deathrite Shaman, Orcish Bowmasters, and Termagoyfs. Bunch of draw cards, bunch of counter spells, and try to win the game on the back of Bowmasters, Deathrite Shaman, and Termagoyf. Prison Shops is the colorless deck of the format. They use the fast colorless lands to be able to get out cards that sort of lock your opponent out of the game. Specifically locking out Vintage decks out of the game. Things like Trinisphere, Sphere of Resistance, Lodestone Golem, and even capitalizes now on being able to play the One Ring. They draw a ton of cards, have a bunch of powerful things, get mana very, very quickly, and lock their opponent out of the game. Squee Hollowvine is my personal favorite deck. You play Bazaar of Baghdad, be able to discard a bunch of cards with the goal of being able to discard Vengevines, getting Root Walls onto the battlefield, getting Hollow Ones onto the battlefield, triggering Vengevines, and putting a ton of power onto the battlefield as fast as possible. But you also play Force of Will, Force of Negations, all these free counter spells as well, and Master of Death and Squee. And when you have 2 Master of Death and Squee going that you return to your hand at the beginning of each upkeep, Bazaar of Baghdad effectively just says draw 2 cards every turn. So you effectively become a control deck behind all these counter spells where you draw 3 cards, including a draw step every single turn, along with applying a ridiculous amount of power onto the battlefield. The Blue-Black Control deck is an extremely straightforward deck that has recently been championed by the well-known Magic Online grinder Mogged. It essentially plays Orcish Bowmasters and leverages Lorien Revealed, Force of Wills, all these draw spells, all these kill spells, plays Power 9 to be able to ramp their mana, like Time Walk and stuff like that, and sort of just jams most of the powerful individual things you can be doing in Vintage all into one deck. So good. He's put up a ton of great results, and people started copying him and putting up good results as well. But that is the Vintage Metagame. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.